a treat for you guys today. Today, Elisha and I are going to interview Michael and Ariel. And they've been married for 14 years. They have 6 kids. They're expecting their 7th in a couple weeks. And I'm just super excited to hear from parents that are further ahead, that have a love for the Lord, and just also have a love for business. I don't know. They have their hands in so many different things, and I'm super excited to hear from them today.
Yeah, if you guys enjoy this podcast, be sure to go check out Ariel and Michael on Instagram or wherever you can find the Tyson family. We'll link them in the show notes below. And be sure to leave a rating or a review if you enjoy this podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, maybe hit the like or the subscribe, or maybe both of those. All right, without further ado, hope you guys enjoy this episode.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
Ariel, Michael, we're so excited to have you guys here on the podcast. And Elisha and I look up to you guys so much, even though we don't even know you guys in person. But just seeing a couple that's united in parenting and loves each other and has fun. You guys are further ahead of us. You have 6 kiddos and 1 on the way. That's just so awesome to us. And we love that you guys are homeschooling. And so we just really want to talk to you guys today. I know our audience is going to love to learn from you, but I really know that we're going to love to learn from you and just hear, about your lives, how you got to where you got. And I'm sure we're going to pick up some nuggets along the way. Also, I'm excited to talk about your children's book, Jack and the Fantastical Circus, and just kind of hear about that process and what, brought you guys to writing that book. So I'm super excited. And I would love to start out with just asking, I guess, what does parenthood look like for you guys right now? I know you were in Montana for a while, and then you just moved to Tennessee. Before we started recording, you mentioned you're in a rental house now and remodeling. So what does parenthood look like for you guys right now?
Oh, man, I would say one of the awesome things about parenthood for me personally right now is that our kids, I have kids in all different age groups. So I have a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old, and both of them are doing things completely different than our 1.5-year-old and our 4-year-old. And so I think that's been really fun because, when I was a young mom and I just had, preschool and under and little babies, it was just so much caretaking and making sure you're fed and dressed and all those things. Now I'm enjoying the whole relationship side of it. And the kids telling me, oh, hey, I made this friend, or this person said this to me. How should I handle it? And I think that's one of my favorite parts about parenting right now. And with the big move and everything, we had to navigate a ton of emotions because we were leaving. We had been in Montana for 8 years and my oldest is 10. So it's the only home that he'd ever known. And so we just had to navigate, okay, we're leaving friends, we're leaving our church that we love so much, we're leaving the only home that they've remembered. And so I guess that's been a big part of at least the last few months in parenting for me.
It was navigating more our emotions than their emotions.
Probably,
Nice.
That's actually.
That's great. So I want to know real quickly, you said you've got ages 10 all the way down to, you said 1.5 right now, or? Wow, that's amazing. And Katie mentioned earlier that you guys are homeschooling. Is every day a little bit different? I mean, I'm sure there's like a framework that you're hoping to work within. And are both of you guys involved on an educational level?
Homeschooling for us, we've always said, has been just a semester at a time decision. We love the idea of homeschooling. We both were homeschooled and had good experiences, and we learned some things that we didn't like and wanted to do differently as the educators. And with that being said, every year and semester has looked different for us. But we have some staples that we just are really important to us. One of those would be a co-op. And if you don't homeschool or don't know what a co-op is, it's just one day a week when other homeschoolers get together, and some of them operate differently, but generally speaking, a parent will teach a class. Like a couple of our kids are in a drama class right now, and like an insect class and stuff like that. And so they get to make friends outside of the family and outside of church. that day of the week, but they also get to learn new things and just outside of our curriculum and our knowledge and time availability. And so as our businesses have grown and Ariel and I have gotten busier and busier and more full, homeschooling has still been a priority and continues to be, actually all the more the busier we get. Generally my day off is Friday. Although since we've moved and my health issues, we don't have our schedule fully going yet, but that would never work, sending them to any kind of a school. And so those are some things that are really important to us. And then as far as if we're both involved, Ariel is definitely mostly involved in the curriculum stuff.
The day-to-day teaching.
Yeah, but something super important about school is learning isn't all done at school, no matter what school you go to. You have homework, you have to learn how to deal with people, you have to learn how to apply the things that you learn. One of the things that we do as a family every night is we have Bible time every night. We've tried to do it in the morning before I go to work and stuff, and we're night people, so we do it at night. And that's something that I almost always lead. And then if we're having an issue, like some kind of a behavioral issue where they're just not wanting to do their school, or they're trying to hide that they're not doing their school or something like that, I definitely get involved in those types of things. Got anything to add to that?
I think that's pretty good. Yeah.
You want to share kind of a little bit of our curriculum journey and where we're at right now? And and just specifically where we're at with all of the busyness of it?
We started, my oldest is now 4th grade, so I guess this is our 5th year homeschooling, which is crazy hard to believe. But I have tried multiple different curriculums, just trying to find what worked for us best. And several of them I love and I would recommend to people. It just didn't work for us. A few of them were just way too hands-on with me working. And we ended up settling on, I guess this was our 3rd year with BJU Press, and it's an online program. So they have teachers online who teach them. It's all from a Christian perspective. So we absolutely love that.
Wow.
But then I will work with them specifically on like reading and spelling apart from the work that they do online, and then helping them with work text pages they don't understand and things like that. But we actually have 2 of our kids are dyslexic. So
At least
2. I'm pretty sure it's 3 now that we have 4 in school. But just the reading and spelling has always been a challenge because of that, and just a little slower. But then once they get it, it's really exciting.
And then here's another important tip, I guess, and if for anybody thinking about homeschooling or doing homeschooling, is they get the dyslexia from me. And I didn't know I was dyslexic until I was in college. All my teachers, and when I was in public school, and then my mom just thought I wasn't trying at spelling. And so Ariel is super smart. And school, she works hard, but at the same time, school kind of came a little bit easy. I mean, I'm not saying she definitely worked hard all through school. And so sometimes for her, she can get frustrated because she feels like she's failing them at times. And like, I mean, they're doing their online class, and then they're just getting, they can't read this one page, or they can't read this one word, and they've worked on it for 2 days. And and so we just kind of have to balance each other out, and continue to pursue excellence, because book education is very important no matter what you do with your life. And so it's something that's important to both of us. Now, I mean, I read a lot every day for my job, and I write. Reading and writing is what I do as a pastor, and then speaking, obviously. But that's a tip. You know, I think, as Ariel said, we've been doing this now 5 years, and it's so easy to just feel like today you failed. And the important thing is to ask yourself, today, did I do my part? Because you're building something that's going long term. And if your kids don't get something right today, it's not the end of the world. Just continue to work on it. Don't try to sweep it under the rug or become overwhelmed by it. Mm-hmm. And the same with all of us, right? We all have the same things like, oh, I didn't get there today. Well, did you do your part? Did you do what you were supposed to do to continue to grow? So in general, that's kind of our overall.
I love it. Wow, that's great.
That is so cool. And I actually, as you guys are giving little clips of your story, I want to back way up for just a second. Can you guys tell me like how you got to where you are today? I know Ariel mentioned that you guys met in college. And then what was kind of your journey to falling in love? Did you guys always want a big family? What do you guys do for work now? All that stuff.
Man, okay. So we did meet in college. We met at Liberty University in Virginia. I actually had moved onto campus 4 days before I met Michael. He was there early. I was a transfer student, so I was there during freshman week before school ever started. He was a prayer leader and he was working as a lifeguard, so he was there freshman week. So I actually met him. He was lifeguarding. Is that how you say it, Ethan? Lifeguarding at the pool.
I was saving people's lives, just
Yeah, I can't resist.
Yeah.
So that's how we first met. We didn't date like officially for a while. There were some trust issues early on, I would say.
Why are you looking at me like this?
Oh, man.
It was both of us. We were teenagers, and
yeah, I was 18. He was 19.
We both had previous boyfriend, girlfriend that hurt our feelings. And so what I didn't want to happen was I didn't want to meet this girl on her 4th day of campus and then her 7th day of campus be like, holy cow, there's other dudes here. I didn't even know. And so, yeah, we did.
Took our time
we
there.
definitely did just take our time and for 6 months or so. And then we dated for a year, and then we were engaged for a year, which is stupid.
Yeah.
A long time.
Setting yourself up for failure. Yeah.
A year too long. That's what we always say.
It was 364 days too long of an engagement.
Yeah.
Because the thing is the day that I asked her to marry me, we knew we wanted to get married. We had talked about it. It wasn't a surprise. I mean, it was a surprise. She didn't know the moment I was going to ask her to marry me, but we had talked about it. We already knew that we wanted to be married. And so that's a little side.
And then,
trail.
When we got married, we had I had a semester left of college. And he ended up with a year and a half because he played football in college. So he had an extra year. So we still had a lot of school left.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then, a little bit more of our story.
But to the school thing, to chase another rabbit trail, I was already paying my own way. I already had my own apartment.
Yeah.
She had her apartment. We were already living. I mean, that whole argument just seems.
It didn't make any difference for us.
Yeah, it didn't. We were already doing the things that we were going to do whether we were married or not.
We just got
except we weren't living together, and we couldn't spend as much time together as we wanted to, and it was a whole lot more of a hassle.
Yeah.
And so then just after college, Ariel went and got her master's. I started on my master's. So, getting married does not destroy your educational pursuits.
Yeah. Right. It's funny. People were worried. They're like, you're not going to finish college. And then I went and got my master's after that. And I'm like, well, I guess we did that. And so we were in Virginia for our first couple years married. And then we moved to Georgia for a year. He had a year-long mentorship program with Johnny Hunt, who is a really well-known pastor, speaker, author that he got to just basically follow around and learn from for a year. It was awesome. And then we went to Raleigh, North Carolina, and we planted a church there with another couple. And we were there for 2.5 years. And then we were in Montana for 8 years, and we started our church there.
And we started a church in Raleigh as well with another pastor and his family. And Bozeman was the longest that Ariel or I had ever lived anywhere in our lives.
Yes,
Wow.
in our entire life.
Yeah. And to back it up, I feel like we do have a great relationship and a healthy marriage now, but it's not always been that way. And you get a truly healthy marriage by working through the unhealth.
Yeah.
And,
like our first year was.
And one
definitely
example of that was her undergrad was speech communication, and I'm a communicator for a living, and I was a pastoring then too. And so we talked really good, and we thought we understood what each other was saying, but communication isn't talking. Communication is understanding. Proof of that is that you could be speaking in French and you could be talking all day long, and I don't know what you're saying. And so when we did get married and those things kind of collided, we thought, well, and even before we got married, we did 16 weeks of premarital counseling, just as it's one of the things that I recommend for everybody about to get married is to go through premarital counseling. Everybody that I marry, I take them through premarital counseling, and the people that counseled us were fantastic and helped us understand a lot of those things and gave us tools even before we were married. But one specific thing for me was we both were working, we both were in school, and our family, the families that we came from
of origin.
They do things differently. So when I would say, yeah, I'm going to help out around the house, and she would say, okay, cool. What I meant by that is sometimes, once in a while, I would do the dishes. And what she understood was every other day or whenever it's needed, I'm going to do the dishes. Right. I mean, and we both were working. We're both in school. There's no reason why it shouldn't have been evenly split. Neither one of us enjoy doing dishes. It's not like one person loves it. And I remember one day we were having a talk about it. Some people might say argument. And I said, no, listen, my responsibility is outside of the house. Do I expect you to mow the yard?
Nice.
Nice
And
move.
it just was not a good idea.
Yeah.
And so that's been something that we've had to learn through and give and take and forgive each other and grow in understanding where each other's coming from and what we really mean in what we say. One of the things that early on in our relationship, she had a struggle with, not because it was her struggle, but it was her experience, was kind of reading into everything that I said instead of just, I said my favorite color is blue. Well, does that mean that your favorite color is really red? Because then you wouldn't pick, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
Yeah, but you didn't finish that thought. What we learned is to say to each other, what I'm hearing you say is.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would say something and he would say, okay, what I'm hearing you say is, and then I could correct it and be like, no, that's not what I was saying.
Yeah, that one thing Katie and I have implemented into our communication. What I'm hearing you say is, and saying it back to the person, I think has diffused a lot of potential, confrontations and verbal altercations.
Yeah, that's so good.
So one thing I'm curious of is you guys are now you
Oh,
got
my
six.
God.
Oh, nice. Nice. You weren't whistling at another girl walking by or anything like that. Okay. So you guys have 6 children, 7th on the way. And yet, by all appearances, it seems like you guys still like each other and you still make an effort to enjoy marriage. Are there some practical things that you have put into place to continue pursuing each other in the midst of child training?
I would say one big thing is that we do have a schedule, and our kids, go to bed at a certain time. We don't have kids in and out of our room all night, because we need that time together, especially after they go to bed. I would say that's a big thing. People ask me that a lot. They're like, how do you make time for each other? And I'm like, well, we make it happen, because, and if we need to talk during the day, okay, you kids are in this room, this is where you're playing, we can go to another room and talk. But really biggest part is that time once they go to bed, those couple hours before we go to sleep, is good. And then
I think another thing that we don't talk about everything.
That's true.
We talk about important things, but what we're mostly talking about is our dreams and our future, and things that we can help each other on. And so I think sometimes we can use our spouse as a vent, which we definitely do and is good. But if we only use them as a vent instead of just developing your friendship, if your best friend and all you did every time you talked to him was vent, you're not growing deeper together. And so another part of that is we just overlook so much, especially her. We just don't sweat the small stuff in each other, the little mistakes. We'll tell each other if something, I can't even give an example, but if something's bothering us, we share it with the other person. Don't let it build up. But then we also just don't make every little thing a big deal. And I think it's a really important thing that's helped us.
The holding grudges thing is something I've seen a lot, because as a pastor's wife, I obviously do lay counseling with women in the church. And I feel like that's the one thing I'm talking to them a lot about. I'm like, well, is this a grudge you're holding on to from something that happened months ago that wasn't that big of a deal? And, talk through it, but then you just got to quit thinking about it and let it go and not let it take up space in your mind. I think that is a big thing. And then I was going to mention, like, with his job and the stress that he has and some of the things that he deals with, it's just better I don't know some of that, just for the health of not only our marriage, but the health of the church, people in our church. So he's done a really good job at that. And that's something he has learned from his dad, who also was a pastor, is that we just don't need to harp on all of that negativity in both of our jobs all the time.
That's so good. I feel like Katie does such a good job. My wife, Katie, does such a good job of, I guess, thinking forward thinking. I'll come home from work and I'll start the venting session. And Katie's always thinking forward, and she, you'll take an opportunity. It's like you said, it's nice to have the support of your spouse to kind of vent briefly and say, man, the kids did this or the neighbor did that, and my coworkers are doing this to me. But something that I think has really kept Katie and I aligned and going forward is what you said, having dreams, having visions, being forward thinking. And I know Katie and I were both naturally that way when we got married, and it was somewhat of a process to kind of align our visions and to start dreaming as a married couple instead of just individuals. I don't know if that's something that you guys have gone through. Were you both visionary, forward-thinking, goal-oriented people when you got married? And if that's the case, how did you guys fuse those and unite those?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to be clear, there are certain things that you need to vent to your wife or your spouse. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying sometimes we can just only focus on one aspect of the importance of having a partner for life. But another thing before I answer your question, I think is crucial in how we're able to focus on the health of our relationship while having, number sevens due next week. We are launching the book that we're going to talk about in a little bit next week. I just bought a small herd of cows that are supposed to be delivered next week.
Nice.
Next week.
Oh, man.
A whole lot going on.
Yeah.
All the time. How do you keep the priorities that you want to be in the place they should be. Well, we have done the best that we can not to let our kids rule our life. They do what we say, not what they say. And we just see so many parents who unintentionally let their kids rule their lives. And they're stealing from their marriage. The best thing that you can give your parents is a healthy marriage.
Your kids? You give your kids? Yeah.
As parents.
Yes.
Other than a relationship with Jesus, the best thing that you can give your kids as parents is a healthy marriage.
Amen. Yeah.
Sometimes because things happen slowly over time, and we have homeschooled 5 years, sometimes you drift from your spouse because you've just let unintentionally your kids take over your life. And your spouse has to be more important than your kids. And I love my kids, and she loves our kids, and they are awesome kids. They are great kids, and I couldn't be more proud of them, but I'm most proud of her. And I think that that's a huge key, is when the kids are the kids, and it's our job to raise them. They don't get to dictate. You know, when we say go to bed, now we've definitely had years where kids need disciplined at night because they don't go to sleep. But when they go to bed, they go to bed, right? We that's huge for us. Now, to answer your question.
Yeah, about us having goals and everything. Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of things completely apart from each other when we met, and we had those goals and we had those focuses. And what's crazy is I said that I would never be a pastor's wife. And I was very set on when I first got to college, I was going to be a TV news anchor. That was like my goal. I was in broadcasting to start. And in my very first semester, before Michael and I are like even really dating, God totally flipped that around. And it's cool how he worked in my life before we were even dating. And God's like, no, you're going to be in ministry and you're going to be serving people. I didn't know what that would look like. And I switched everything around. I went into speech comms, and then my minor is in youth ministry. And I just totally changed my heart on working with youth. I worked with teen girls a lot. I did women's ministry. And so I had this focus, and then for us to be dating, and then like he just knew he was going to be in ministry as a pastor, but we didn't even know about church planting until we had been, I think we were engaged maybe when we started looking at church planting. And so it was just cool because everything that God had already been working on with me, I could use in what I've done. But you know, he was playing college football. I was competing in Miss Virginia. I did the pageant. So we were in like two totally different directions and going different places, but both of us had the same heart, and that ended up coming together with ministry. Yeah.
And then another part of that is we've definitely made sacrifices again for what matters most to us. Ariel stopped competing in pageants, and I quit playing football so that we could get married. And so our own personal dreams. Another thing is I just thought it was normal to play football, go to practice and lift weights, and then go play 4 hours of basketball every night. And so she would be like, hey, do you think maybe you could only like play an hour today and we can go eat supper? I'm like, the gym is only open. I mean, there's dudes playing. I got to play. So those, it's part of growing together, becoming from individuals into one unit. And so I think right now where we're at is just supporting each other, and each other's vision and dreams become ours.
Yeah, because we're doing both two different things and also things together now. two totally different, like, he's pastoring, I have the social media, but we also run a few businesses together at the same time. So it's like,
and we participate. I mean, you're in ministry too. She's leading our kids ministry. I'm a part of the social media stuff as well.
Yeah.
So
There's overlap.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. That's great.
I love that, how you bring each other into each other's worlds. And then, like, you have so much to dream on and you have to dream about, and you have so much in common when you do have conversations because you have so many shared goals and visions. I love that. Okay, I want to ask one more quick question before we jump into talking about Jack and the fantastical circus. What's something that you feel like you've maybe mastered in parenting, and what's something that you're still working on?
That's a good question. Okay, one of the things I think that we've mastered is our kids are very, very self-sufficient. And I was actually just talking, we just hired a assistant for me with the work that I do. And she was just telling me that yesterday. And she said, I love this job because it's so different than the nannying I had done before, because your kids are very self-sufficient. So they can do their own things and, then I can help them out. But it is really fun for me because they're proud of themselves for the things they can do by themselves. And I also get time to work on other ways to help your family. And that's what she had told me.
And she's not our nanny. She just previously has been a nanny.
She has, in the past, she has been a nanny. And now she is my assistant for all things like home, business, kids, school, all that
like
stuff.
Right now, she's holding the fort down so that we can be a part of this, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We've got so many business things going on that when we were trying to find a babysitter here or there, it was like we couldn't.
Yes. So I would say, like, helping
the
the kids to be independent while also being dependent on us, because all of our kids feel really comfortable talking to both of us about whatever they have going on or they need help with or they're struggling with or they're confused about. And so they're really dependent in that way, but then also independent and able to handle things on their own and do things like that. As far as things we're still working on, you got a good one there. You look like you were ready.
We're still working on helping our kids master self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
I mean, the mastering thing, I would say that there's things that we're just trying really hard to master. And one of those would be to be as consistent as we possibly can.
Yeah.
In everything, in discipline, in steady emotions on our end, because when you come home from doing something crazy stressful or dealing with a relational issue, you can become short. And so consistency is like a constant thing. And then the more kids you have, I don't know how many siblings you guys have, but I'm the oldest and she's the oldest. And it seems like the younger siblings, they got away with so much.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. It's not right. So, of course you learn the more you have, but I also, I don't want
it's hard
our oldest
to be as consistent
with
the younger as we were when we only had a few and we were a lot younger. I would say consistency is the main thing, because it's hard to stay even with all of that and the emotions. And
another huge challenge that we're kind of just jumping into is managing extracurricular activities. Our oldest 4 boys played football this summer and fall, and that just ended last weekend. And now the oldest 4 are doing wrestling. Well, I love basketball. I've coached basketball, played basketball. And my oldest especially is like pretty bummed that he can't play basketball this year. And we just couldn't handle it getting the kids to different places, and with the baby and moving to the house soon and all of that. And so we are trying really hard to do our best to offer those life experiences to our kids and not let the joys of having a large family become a burden that they have to carry. And that's a challenge. but it's worth it. And so that's one of the things that we're working through right now. Not only are we busy with all of our business ventures and ministry, but when the kids are doing sports that have practices at different times in different places, there's only two of us. So.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's crazy. That's great stuff. Okay, so do we get to hear about Jack and the Fantastical Circus?
Okay, so the name's intriguing, and I just want to know, how'd you guys come up with this book idea?
What's the origin story?
You actually came up with the fantastical part. We came up with
the only
name.
Word I wrote of this.
I mean, in the title, he was like, "What about fantastical?" I'm like, does that even sound right? I don't know.
It sounds great to me.
But yeah, the book is crazy because we had talked about writing a book together for a long time. And both of us had interest in, children's books or children's devotional. But really it just had never happened. And then we had a publisher actually approach us about writing a children's book. And I was like, I guess this is our first book we're writing together. It is a children's book. It's kind of cool how it had been on our minds, but had never come to fruition.
And Ariel wrote a book previously, not a kid's book.
4 years ago this month, actually, I launched it.
And so we learned a lot through that. And our publisher has been awesome. And so the process, writing a kid's book is not as easy as I thought it was. It's a lot more work. In our process, we actually, the bulk of writing this book, we went on a pastor's retreat in Arizona.
Yeah.
And we took all of our spare time at that retreat, and we would just go and we would say, okay, we're writing on
this character or this section of the book.
And so I would write what my take on that story of that page, and then we would read them to each other and take what we liked of what each other wrote and just try to combine it.
Yeah.
That was that's probably not the most efficient way, but that's how we did it. And so we really did write this book together. I mean, every page is put together with our individual ideas coming together. Here's a copy of the book.
Oh, fun. That looks awesome.
Can you read it, or is it backwards for you?
It's
great.
perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, when we got them last week, we got some copies.
Yeah. This dog.
It's really like, we're really pumped about it. It's like higher quality than we thought it might be.
Yeah, when it showed up in the box, I was like,
cool.
Oh man, these look better than they looked on the PDF file. I was excited.
That's so fun.
But a little bit about, just give an overview of the book. It's a fun book that will draw kids in, but it's also, as a parent reading it or a grandparent reading it, like, you're going to enjoy the story too. And it's Jack going on a journey through his dream. They're on a train, but he falls asleep, and then in his dream, he goes on a train, which is the Fantastical Circus.
Okay.
And each one of the train cars is a new circus performer. And we draw out from that circus performer a specific characteristic, a virtue. And how that virtue is used in their line of work. And undercurrent theme throughout the book that isn't written on any page is gaining respect for the men in Jack's life, his dad and his granddad, and how they should be mentors in his life. One of the things that was super important to me is to portray the men and the father and the grandfather as respectable, honorable heroes, men to look up to and to learn from, because
culture doesn't do that. Yeah.
Right. Yes, exactly.
As men, if we have that expectation of ourselves, then it helps hold us accountable to live up to it. But when the expectation for ourselves is to be a deadbeat, to do whatever I want, to have no responsibility, well, then guess what? It's easy to meet that expectation. And so that's something really important to me, this undercurrent. I think one of my favorite characters is Zarif, the strong man, and his virtue that he's displaying is consistency. Commitment, I think, is how we wrote it in the book. Commitment.
Wow. Oh, so fun.
How do you illustrations. The world's strongest man? Commitment.
Yeah.
You don't do it by going one day a year and lifting as heavy as you can. You do it by being committed. And so how do you grow strong in anything that you want to be good at in life? Be committed to it. And so Ariel's
these are my favorite here. And
wow. Look at that.
So beautiful.
That is.
We were amazed. We had an awesome illustrator. Our publisher actually found her for us and presented her work, and we were like, it's perfect. It's fun, it's bright, it's whimsical, it's exciting for kids. And one of the biggest things for us is that we wanted this to be a book that not only kids enjoy reading, but that parents enjoy reading to their kids, or that grandparents or aunts and uncles, that the whole family can get involved with, and that it's a good generational book for everyone, because you're learning something through it, but it's also really fun for the kids to look at too. Wow, that's so great.
Oh, I love that.
We love our publisher. I mean, I know I've said that, but the Good and True Media, they're the only publisher we've ever worked with, but they've been fantastic. And we have a huge gratitude for them. Without them, we wouldn't have written this book. And they've done a fantastic job. And we're just grateful for that partnership that's allowed us to put our fingerprints on this story and to get it out.
That's great. So can you guys let us know when this is available, where we can find it? How does this all work?
Yes, it will be. It's in pre-launch right now, but it's officially launching on Tuesday, November 23rd. So it's 2 days before Thanksgiving. So it'll officially launch. It'll be on Amazon and on Good and True Media's website. And then they're working right now with Book Depository to get it international so that it can easily ship to different countries. So it'll all be available. And if you go to their site now, they have a lot of free, on Good and True Media, they have a lot of free stuff up right now. If you sign up for their email and you get on that list, they've put together just some awesome fun things to do, like over Thanksgiving break with the book, and like coloring pages and things like that.
Oh, cool.
You can pre-order now.
Yeah. And it is discounted right now on pre-order. So
that is so awesome. And I just thank you guys so much for getting on today. I know that our listeners, just as they're hearing from you guys, are going to be so encouraged and so aligned with so many of the things that you shared that are just so subtly going so strong against the grain of culture. And that's something that we're really, I don't know, we want to love people, but we also just want to have our journey that we feel like the Lord's calling us to, and that could ruffle some feathers, but so it's really encouraging, I guess, to hear from someone who's just walking it out, living it out. So I want to know, where can people follow you, watch your family, learn from you guys more, and just like stay connected with your journey and what you continue to do?
My Instagram is Ariel, ARIEL Tyson. And then that's the same for our TikTok together. It's just Ariel C. Tyson. We also have our YouTube channel, which is the Tysons. And then you can...
My Instagram, I'm Michael Tyson the Fifth. So it's Michael E. Tyson IV.
This is so long.
Nice.
Wow, nice.
You're not the
I'm the
fifth. You're
fourth.
the fourth, buddy.
Hey, here's a little nugget. We have a fifth. So
Oh,
Wow.
you're...
we don't
Whoa.
So y'all.
Wow. Man, insider information.
Listen to your podcast.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna go.
guess
I'm gonna
so.
go buy that domain now. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
That's so cool. We will have everything linked down in the show notes and in the YouTube description so everyone can go follow you. And thank you guys so much
Yeah,
for
this has
getting on
been-
today.
This has been so encouraging. So blessed by you guys. Thank you so much.
We're really grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah,
It's been good
thanks.
talking with you.